The Zen story of the bamboo cutter shows that hard work isn't everything. So the story goes like this. There was a young man who started working at the temple cutting bamboo. And so now they had large growths of bamboo. It was all over the place. And so it was a really hard work, a lot of effort to keep the temple in order. And so he'd be out there cutting bamboo, these huge piles of bamboo. And he worked very, very hard. And so now one day the old Zen master, who is very kind and compassionate guy, but a little bit mischievous, as they often are, started talking to the young man. And he said, you work very hard, but I think I could chop down twice as much bamboo in half the time working. And so the young man was almost like indignant at this challenge. And he said, all right, here's my blade. Tomorrow, we'll see what you can do. And so the young man came back the next morning, and much to his surprise, the Zen master was nowhere to be found. There was just a small pile of bamboo. So the young man went off, and he came back again a few hours later, right after lunch, and again, much to his surprise, Zen master, nowhere to be found. But there was a pretty big pile of bamboo. And so at this point, the young man is like, he's getting frustrated. Like, I don't know what to do. This is crazy. So finally, he goes back again, and then he comes back towards the end of the day, around 5 o'clock, and he sees the old master sitting peacefully in meditation, no blisters on his hand, not a drop of sweat, just calmly sitting. And off in the distance, he sees a pile of bamboo, twice or three times as high as any that he had ever seen. And at this point, he's in disbelief. He says, how'd you do this? And the old man said, young man, you work very hard and very long. You work ferociously. What I do is very efficiently. I chop bamboo for maybe 1 or 2 hours. Then I go home, I rest my muscles, and I sharpen my blade. Then I come back, I cut, I rest, I sharpen, and I do this a few times. And by doing this, I work half the time and cut twice as much. So hard work is very important, but sometimes hard work is not the answer. And I often share this story in keynote speeches or talks, especially when I'm talking about some of the work I do as well around the 4-day work week. But this story really shows that there's not a one-in, one-out relationship between inputs and outputs, between work and productivity or effectiveness. Oftentimes, there are more intelligent ways to work, and rest is also a necessary part of work. And so when we look at this as individuals or as organizations, so there's an author, Alex Pang, who's kind of a colleague of mine, but really fascinating writer. And he talks about individuals. When you look at highly, highly successful or prolific creators or intellectuals, people like Charles Darwin types, right? They often had a pattern of working maybe 5 hours, very focused, very intensely, and then longer bouts of disengagement or sort of this active forms of rest and leisure, such as mountaineering or hiking or some sort of sport or some sort of hobby. You look at a lot of the major creative breakthroughs happen, again, when you think about this idea of where you have a sudden insight while you're like in the shower or on a walk. Sir Isaac Newton, his discovery of gravity, right? He worked hard, and then he was sitting under an apple tree relaxing, and an apple fell down, and he's like, oh my goodness. So in individuals, we see this pattern. And then, of course, organizations, surprisingly. Actually, when you look at some of the data from 4-day work week trial pilots, where they have people work, let's say, 80% of the hours they normally do, and they expect them to meet the same level of productivity. There have been hundreds of companies now, thousands of employees who have tried this, and what you tend to see is, I don't know what the final number is, but in the last US trial, 100% of the companies continued it. In the last UK trial, 92% of the companies continued it. When you look at their revenue growth compared to the same period in the prior year, there's no material changes, usually. Sometimes there's slight increases compared to what it would have been. So you see marginal improvements in productivity or no change in productivity while working 20% fewer hours. So what you see is that productivity, again, is not all about the hours worked or how hard you work or how much you work. It is often about how intelligently you work and how intentional you are about layering rest into your work ethic. So I hope you enjoyed this short video on the benefits of rest and the benefits of taking a more intelligent approach to what we call hard work. Of course, hard work is essential. Consistency is important, but there are sometimes better ways when you think about improving your productivity, and ultimately that's going to help you improve your well-being as well. So here's a video that YouTube suggests you'll like. And as always on this channel, you can find practical tools, stories, and research to help you be at your best in work and in life. I'll see you next time.